Fenster, Flagstaff, Arizona. Yeah, I first met him through If Not Now. I was like my first chapter meeting, and I remember we were like tasked with coming up with action ideas. And I remember his idea was just really cool. It was very creative. I don't. I've had some weird memory stuff actually going on lately. I was talking to my mom about it earlier. It was like something carnival-y though. And
Mm.
so that makes me think, was it Purim? But like, when did I get trained? I got trained in winter, so maybe it would have been Hanukkah. Hanukkah. It could have been Hanukkah or Purim, but I remember it was a carnival idea. And I am not, I was very much raised Jewish, but I didn't have my own connection to Judaism as an adult. And that's something I found through If Not Now, but Emet was just like, right, he's a rabbi. Everything about him was those connections. And so the way he thought to connect action to the holiday. I'm not sure which one it was. For me, that whoa, that's it was just a way that my brain had not even thought to conceptualize, and that's what stood out to me. The New Year's one
Yeah.
on the right. Yeah, so I had moved to South Dakota that May, and I came to visit in the winter. I came to Philly and spent a bit of time with them or tried to be a part of the community during that time. And that was New Year's. And I don't remember how the idea came up, but it was really fucking fun. The hospice, the folks who are Philly based had really helped coordinate a really good relationship with the hospice staff. And so I think they thought we were sneaking champagne in, but I don't think I think they were very fully aware of what we were doing. And we just threw a New Year's party and we had music and dancing and glitter, as all great parties do. Yeah, we were having a good time. And his sister was there. We got fully dressed up. I mean, I think it like
Yeah,
goes
I
on
see that.
as like one of the best New Year's. But I think it was just trying to bring joy. And Matt, he he didn't, yes, he needed space to process and grieve. And he also wanted space for joy. And he really welcomed joy in. I think that's an element, right? He'd been sick, like, right, he'd been dealing with chronic illness for a long time. And even before he made the decision to go into hospice, he always welcomed joy. And it would be like, wait, you were just in the hospital. How are you having being so joyous right now? And I think that was a beautiful part of him. I really don't think it was that much planning because I was not a part of. There was some pretty mass coordination efforts happening the whole time he was in hospice that I was not a part of. And I think it was more there were always people in his room. And when I was there, I tried to spend time in his room. And I think it was more of a, oh, New Year's is coming up. Why don't we just do this? And then we're okay, cool. Text you think texting people, and there's just it's a lot of people go out of town that time of year, but I think it just happened to be the crew that was hanging out in his room around that time. Oh, let's do that. And there was, I want to say, I took Roxy with me to the liquor store to buy. I want to say that because yeah, my memory's not great, but I remember we took Roxy for walks, and I remember being, she's like a service dog in training. I do remember the liquor store in Rittenhouse near the hospice. I remember us standing in line with her and being like, are people just gonna, because it was like the in training. And I think that would have, I mean, I could have bought liquor multiple times during that period. But I think it was relatively uncoordinated. I'm thinking about glitter, and there was just such a community to the room. But I mean, it was just the kind of thing where we all loved Emet, so we just all hung out together. Oh, I don't know. I was only in Philly for a couple of years, but we must not have crossed paths much. I remember you though. I just don't think maybe like same party or something.
Yeah.
I've wondered that. I don't think I'm right. It's that same, right? It's very similar setup. So the photo of me that I got in that night, and that was that night that I got in. So she might have been there earlier in the day because yeah, I think I flew in and I got there at 8 or 9 in the evening. Yeah, I think I came at the end of the day. So I did not. Sarah was there when I got there that night.
Okay.
And I forget his name, but
I
yeah,
met
that looks like it
Sarah.
was the same day. Yeah, I didn't get in until that evening. My flight got in that night. That makes sense. Remind me of the name of that person there, like Met's best friend from high school in that photo with Rachel.
This is Michaela.
The one down.
That's Kaden.
Kaden. Okay, I was like, oh, what a community builder. I I've been thinking about the things that you taught me,
one of like the theme is that you've taught me how to be grounded. You just bring such like a level of authenticity to everything, and it makes people feel more comfortable just being authentic, but also you ground it in like other ways. Like whenever I kind of doubt or like forget about Judaism, I remember like how it's so rooted in you and like the beautiful energy that comes out of you when you talk about it. And that like really it like brings it to the heart, and then grounded in another way that whenever we were organizing actions and I was super stressed out about something, you're like, calm down, I'll do it. And like within the course of 30 seconds, you took me from being super stressed to being like, ah! And so just like really, you're just so rooted and just so rooted and wonderful. I just learned so much from you.
Okay, I just want to tell you that I don't know if you remember this, but the last thing that you said to me before you moved away was, "I'm so glad that you're my friend," and that's just like it penetrated me like such a deep level. And I don't think I've ever had anyone say that in like those kind of words before, and I don't know. I just started weeping walking home. It was just it was just such a kind thing to say to someone, especially if you don't have to see them again. You're just moving away. I think that was just it's beautiful.
Love you.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. I've just been thinking. I was really glad you reached out to me because I had a baby 4 months ago, so it was a pretty drastic shift in my life. And I don't know. I think before that I'd been kind of caught up in some of my own shit that I didn't need to be caught up in, and so I spent the last couple of days thinking about Emet a lot. And especially when I had that weird thing, I remember being at the funeral, but I didn't remember speaking, and then I was like, "Fuck, what's happening to my brain?" So I went back and I'm trying to think and remember a lot, and there's an element to it that I don't. So in my work, I'm a therapist and I work with kids and adults. And so many adults, we have anxiety about not being good enough, right? We have so much anxiety around making mistakes. And that's just kind of a theme that I've seen. And so there's this cool psychotherapist, parenting coach, who talks about making people know there's always the good inside of them. And I've spent this felt very natural thing. I think it makes sense professionally. It's also rooted in cool brain biology stuff. But I was thinking, Emmett brought that to the way he interacted with people. I think there's that element. I don't know, I'm someone who can trend towards the anxious. And so saying like, hey, you made me feel grounded, that can be so big if you're someone who spent a lot of time in this to feel like this. And I think the way that one of the things that he did was he made you if you were if I was feeling like stressed out and stuff, I felt like Emmett would see the good parts because when we're stressed out, we're not always showing our best selves. And I think that there are elements to it that he brought the grounded and seeing the good inside of people. And we're so fucking young. He was so young. That's wild to think about. I was not nearly, and he was younger than me. He brought a level of maturity and then just I don't remember telling him what he said was such a meaningful moment. I'm so glad you're my friend. I was true. I'm really glad Mel was my friend. But I don't necessarily remember saying that. And that's interesting. And it was probably, we lived pretty close to each other. My last year in Philly, our apartments were walking distance and I'd walk my dog and he'd be out with Roxy. And so it was pretty easy to stop by. But yeah, I don't, how does so much wisdom make its way into such a young body? And spirituality, intensity. And the connection to, yeah, the spiritual is pretty beautiful too. But yeah, we were on action planning committees for If Not Now. And it was everything was harder, right? For him getting places, everything was harder. That fucking determination. Also, I don't know. I watched the interview you did with Jordan and how she talked about how he honored people showing up. He showed up how he could and he really honored how everyone can show up. And I thought she really articulated that really beautifully. Because Emmett did so much behind the scene stuff. And he did some of we have some awesome photos, some in front of the scenes stuff too. but I think his ability to coordinate and do the behind the scenes stuff was a beautiful skill set developed as well. It was a really beautiful whole community effort. I was only a part of it for a short time, a little bit remote. Like I spent a couple nights in his hospice room with him, but it was, yeah, the beautiful community element of it. And the thing about Emet too was I didn't know people who were walking in, but and I'm someone who can trend towards anxious, but it wasn't anxiety inducing because it was, even if you didn't know people, you're a part of the community anyways. I did at least one night. I know I did that first night with the photo, and I don't want to, I don't know if I did. I want to say I did at least another night. I was there, I was in the Philly area for a couple weeks, but I have family out. And so I went and did a couple nights with family as well. And I know I did at least one night. I'm not sure if I did more. It's just there's something about it that just felt pretty natural. I don't know. I think it was a couch. It was a benchy couch. Honestly, pretty comfortable, but I don't know if I would find it comfortable now that I'm in my 30s. Like, can do more. And there was CVS or a Walgreens right around the corner that I think I went and bought groceries, or not groceries, granola bars from for breakfast. And there were all the lights that felt warm and Roxy. But there'd been so much work going into making the room feel like a home that it felt very, very comfortable to spend the night. And I don't sleep great either. I don't remember. I remember sleeping just fine. And I think I've kind of felt a little like a pajama party. Like I went and put my PJs on and then we brushed my teeth, we said goodnight. Yeah. I don't know. I think not too long in the past, I'd done a bit of time in the hospital with my grandma. And so I'm used to kind of a certain element of the hospital vibe. But I think, honestly, that was maybe my first night overnight in a hospital, which is funny. When I gave birth, I was just thinking that I'd never spend overnight in a hospital, but I had. Well, it was a hospice, so it was a little different. I don't have a memory of feeling nervous. I think that maybe speaks to the fact that I hadn't had to do a lot of nights in hospitals before. Right. So it wasn't bringing up my own things. I was able to show up. I had some friends get sick in high school and I didn't show up for them the way I wanted to show up. And so when I knew I wanted to show up in a better way. I think, yeah, there was an element, I don't know, I think adventure is the wrong word, but there was a newness to it. I was just happy to be there. I think that the medical elements made me a little bit nervous. I don't, right, he was really sick. There were a lot of pieces to taking care of him that there was an element of nerves to me just because I'd never been around it before. And I'm a little squeamish, but Emmett was very understanding. And of course I wasn't doing that part as it goes. I don't have a specific memory of it, but when you say that, I think probably, yeah. My guess is Jordan did. We were roommates for a couple of years and dear friends from college. I still speak to her, but my guess is that that's the kind of thing that Jordan would have done. Even if I don't have a specific memory, I'm going to credit her with it. The web of it. Oh yeah, it's cooler to see it as that piece. I was there for such a short period though, I will say. Like, there are so many people, yeah, that it was like an integral part of their day-to-day life versus me. I was in grad school at the time, and I was working remotely for a company in Philly. I did that a little bit, but I was very much a bit more different than my usual everyday when I was there. I remember I went there's a Claire's in downtown Philly. I got whatever rainbow shit I could find. I got these glitter rainbow hearts. They have like rhinestone earrings. And Emmett wore one and I wore one and I keep it. I think it's in my safe actually. Well, because it wasn't that nice of an earring. It was not longevity wise, but I think there were so many people and it was when I was there in December too. It was dark and dreary time in Philly. And yeah, just trying to bring some of that. And I think that's where you see the glitter stick photo where we have the nails. Yeah. And it was just, I don't know got the coloring books. I don't remember who bought the glitter sticks, but it was that element of trying to have some fun in it. And Emmett brought the fun and Emmett wanted to have fun. And so it came up from like a silly moment. Oh, isn't this like funny looking? It's like glitter claws and we're making dinosaurs. Yes. Well, and like that was definitely not my dinosaur. That must have been Mickey's dinosaur because I
Yeah.
don't color that well inside of the lines. But I will say that Emmet even made me feel an element of it's about the process, not the product. So this is a weird. How can you think I'm like my memory? This is like a dear friend and incredibly thoughtful person, and I can't remember this. But I know
Dear.
I have a memory of coloring in that room. I remember those lights. I didn't buy them, but I remember those lights. I remember thinking they were awesome. I know I did some coloring, but I can't definitively say any of it was mine. I can definitively say a lot of it was not because a lot of the stuff is very, very skilled. I like the one you have of him. I think was it when he was dressed up for New Year's with the glitter? It was back a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. This is a special time just being there. And his sister brought her dogs too. That might have been, I mean, it looks like as the glitter sticks. I'm wondering if he's wearing in that photo the earring.
Yeah, I feel like you might be.
It's hard to tell. I mean, I could get mine to look. It's hard to tell with the lighting, but I wonder if
Look at
I,
here.
it looks like doesn't it look like a heart with rainbow rhinestones?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, that would be it. He like believed in his friends too. I was a little nervous. I wanted to be near family and I knew I needed to find a next step and I was trying to find what my next step in life was going to be and he really encouraged me to go to grad school to be a therapist. I wasn't sure if I was going to be a good therapist. And I think, right, I don't know. I always thought of therapists as like wisdom and having their shit together. And it turns out that doesn't have to be true. You should always be working your own shit. But he really encouraged me when I was something that I was nervous about and believing in me in that. I remember he encouraged me. It was one time I was visiting in the hospital, maybe at Jefferson. Was he at Jefferson a bunch earlier? Yeah. It's like a room with bright light. I think I would just visit him after work. I work downtown. I spend so much of a life in a hospital. I visited him a couple times at the hospital. He was in good health for a hunk of time, but I remember visiting him that spring of 2018 when I was making the decision if I was going to go to the grad program I got accepted into. Yeah. But most of my interactions with him at kind of, well, we spent a lot of time doing If Not Now stuff. It took up a lot of time. So a lot of it was through If Not Now. So I think you have a photo of him at one of the ones. Yes, okay, so this was the JNF one. Oh, and then the one on the right. I don't think I was at the one on the left. I don't think I was at the one on the right. Oh, that was after I'd moved because it was the embassy. Yes, I was in South Dakota for that. But the one on the left was are you familiar with the Jewish National Fund? Yeah, so they had a fundraiser. And yeah, I don't remember like the details of the creative element of it, but I remember us singing. We had those posters. You can see the award for uprooting most Palestinian families. That was clever. Cleverly done. Yeah, Adam Blyman is on the left, and then Beth. I don't remember what her last name is, but her first name is Beth, and she's on the right. Do you know? I'm wondering if am I the one holding the speaker? Yeah, it's me.
That's you?
Yeah.
I love that.
I was like, it looks like my
Like I've
hair,
been
these curls went on at the ear. That looks like my hair horns.
oh,
Yeah.
that's bigger.
Yep, that's me holding.
Yay, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yes, Adam Blyman on the left, and
Oh,
he's big in If Not Now. It's definitely Beth. Organizing is a lot of work, and so people often do it in waves.
yeah.
I feel like this was a wave that had the energy to engage. It was off Broad Street, heading north. My geography is not great. Off Broad Street, heading north, and it was just a JNF fundraiser at. I don't think it was a particularly Jewish location. I could be wrong, but I remember a bunch of older, nicely dressed. It was just older, wealthy Jews going into the fundraiser, and there's something so. One of the beautiful things about If Not Now is I think it engages with Judaism at its core through singing in Hebrew and Yiddish. And I think there's something about that that causes a dissonance that can be because it's a lot easier to ignore people if they're just yelling, "Hey, you're a bad person, stop doing that," versus someone saying, hey, I come from this culture. This is against our culture. This is against our value. This is our against everything we are. And we have different, like, I think there's something about it, the way, if not now, is structured. I don't know. I do remember people, they didn't quite ignore us. And they didn't yell back. I was engaged in some activism in Israel. I was on the birthright walk-offs. The birthright, that was more, we wanted to, I went on birthright. I'd heard give it a chance. And while I was there, there happened to be other people on the trip who had also been involved in If Not Now. And we're like, wait, they're not giving us a chance. And we were asking questions, and Birthright very much advertises itself as an organization that says to give it a chance and that they show both sides. And throughout the course of our time, there happened to be a few other people. Wait, this is even worse than we could have imagined. We we first just tried to come to it one at a time, asking questions and just trying to meet people where they're at. Because that's, I don't know, I think my involvement, If Not Now, taught me that, right? People don't do shitty things because they're shitty. People do the shitty things because they're deep trauma, oftentimes, and trying to meet them where they're at. And when that wasn't happening, we had, yeah, a couple of us made a decision to kind of make a stand. Became bigger than we would have expected. But I remember Emet posting on Facebook and sharing an article because someone got interviewed, and I just moved to South Dakota, and then a month before I'd gone on birthright. And I remember I don't remember the details, but it was something about how he was really proud of me, and that made me feel really good. Yeah, my memory of it. It's nice to, we're all trying our best. It's just, I think, I don't know, I'm rambling. So I'm not really involved in it now. I make a small monthly donation, but so I'm not involved in how it is now. But back then, yeah, as I experienced it, it was pretty new by the time I got involved. I got trained up in fall of 2016. Yeah, because Trump got elected. That was a pivotal moment. There were national structure, there were folks involved in the national chapter who were going around and building local chapters. And Philly was kind of one of the flagship chapters. Jordan got trained before me. I remember her being so profoundly excited and going through like the whole training manual with me when she got home because she was really into it. I honestly knew an embarrassingly small amount about Israel and Palestine at the time. And I think looking for a home, looking for a community, I don't know. And the way it was set up is if you had to go this weekend training, be a member, and they had the really base core values. And then there's an element of trying to train organizers. And I'd never done any community organizing before. I'm a very unorganized person in general. It's something I've worked on a lot in the last decade. But I became a direct action lead, and that was one of the titles that there were. And then people could move up more, and national would kind of put out things. We want to do actions that are coordinated, or there would also be folks who were local who were looking for potential actions. And the thing about If Not Now is it's kind of cool the way it was set up, because kind of didn't at the time it didn't, and it does take more of a stance now, but at the time it didn't take a stance on some of the more kind of polarizing issues around Israel, and instead it just was setting up which side are you on? You have to be on the side of the good, and kind of setting that dichotomy. And so with that JNF action, right, growing up, there was a DACA box at my synagogue for JNF, and I never thought twice about it. Just kind of setting up that dichotomy and trying to find actions that set up that dichotomy. But there was a large component to it of the creative. And I think that's where Emet was really cool, because everything was linked to Jewish values. And that's, I think, an element that is, If Not Now, drew me to my Judaism to a very core level. The way Emet was he's a rabbi, he knows, I still don't know as much. I read books written by cool people who know more than me, and I love it sometimes. But Emet was able to deeply root the actions to the values and provide that. And I think that was a really special thing about it. But I mean, you can't even think about that activism without thinking about what's going on now. And I think I had such a, I went to a lot of fucking Hebrew school to come away with not much of a connection of Judaism in retrospect to the timing of it. Though there was an element to it that rooted itself in my heart. But I didn't know Judaism could be so cool. And that's something that Met took to the next level. Queer yeshiva, I didn't know that. It's so cool. And I think that's something that being a part of If Not Now, and there are a lot of rabbinical students involved in If Not Now. And Jordan, who's not a rabbi, but did consider it for a long period of her life, knew a lot more about Judaism than I did. It was this piece that being involved with these folks was so beautiful. And Emet just happened. Emet was the rabbi that I interacted with the most through If Not Now. And I'd be like, wow, this thing doesn't seem like a great connection, but he could find the connection to Judaism in most things, which was cool. I remember really wishing I could be there. I remember being really grateful that they had a Zoom set up. I remember watching him get ordained. It was an moment that the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College is in Philly, and there are so many people who live in West Philly and all of that. And I think that I saw a lot of people on camera that I'd heard about, and I remember that connection. I remember being really sad that his ordination was ending. It came with the ending of a life on Earth versus, I don't know, who the fuck knows what happens after we die. That's a very Jewish thing to think too, I personally learned. But I remember just really sad that he didn't get to practice, didn't get to use his ordination in the way he wanted to when he began that program. But he used it, used it in life. Daughter's name is Noah, but it's Noah. You're showing the web, but doing it in a way that the web shows itself. And it lets people get out of it what they need out of it, make what they will with their truth, and the very postmodern element to it. And it was that, I think that was one of the cool things about the living funeral is getting to see it. I don't know what your experience was like attending it via Zoom. My experience of it was, yes, getting to watch it and see it play out. But then when I did speak, I felt more like I was speaking to Emet. And yes, there were other people around. But then when I see the clip you sent me, and oh my gosh, all of those people are watching me talk. I should have, I don't know. You see the way I talk. This is the way my brain works. I was like, oh man, I think I would be more nervous. Those pieces. Yeah, but I'm glad I didn't know how intensely people were watching. Well, I don't know. You're showing up as best you can in the moment. Yeah, I love it. I love using telehealth and therapy for that purpose as well. I'm gonna have to go back and watch this. I do remember because sometimes with the action meeting committee, we would try to do it accessible places. I remember we'd do it in the food court of the mall downtown Philly because that was accessible. But sometimes weather made it extra hard. And I'm not a very technologically adept person, but Emet always made it work. I think there was one where it was leading and we were there, and his ability to also not get right. Sometimes technology doesn't work the way you want it to. He helped us navigate, and I think he led the way of this is how you engage me in this space. It was the first for me and trying to figure some of that out. I think at the time I appreciated him as a human, how impressive he was. I think as I get older and I reflect on how immature in retrospect I was at the time, I'm like, shit, and I know he went through a lot that let him get to that place. But I don't think it was just that. I think there was, and not just as horrible language for it. Yes, I think adversity ages people and can create wisdom. And I think there's something like innately special about some people. And especially the exponential quantity of the intentionality, right? When you describe that, to think on so many levels, it's so incredible. That's something I could borrow. And being true to himself and not willing to sacrifice. I think I know I certainly sacrifice elements of my authenticity when I'm worried about fitting in sometimes, which is a dumb and immature thing. And I think when he showed up as himself, he welcomed everyone to show up as themselves, which I think is what I was trying to get at in some of what I said at the living funeral. I mean, also I would be stressing out about actions and he could handle the nitty-gritty pieces. But I think that was a true piece. When he showed up for himself, he welcomed other people to show up as themselves. That's that point, right? Snap. And you get the living funeral was a beautiful idea. And if you also think about what are what are we all trying to do in life? I think we all spent a lot of time trying to figure that out, but a lot of people in Emet's community had similar goals of wanting to make an impact on people. Shit. How old was Emet when he died? 25?
24.
24. Okay. Because I knew he was younger than me. To be able to make that large of an impact at the age of 20 fucking 4. That's insane. But he didn't even have like a regular 24 years. He was fighting for his life for a good hunk of it. What the fuck are we doing with what am I doing with my time? He was able to do so much. But I would, if you're trying to leave a digital imprint of his impact, I think some of the pieces, I don't know, I'm really valuing this conversation. And I'm sure others would too. But also, isn't that so true? And if you think about the actions going on now, right? It's just you show up. You show up as community. Because when you're together and when you're present and grounded, that's where the magic happens. How long was he? He died in March. So when did he go into hospice?
December.
December, okay. Because I was only at the one in downtown Philly, but I know he moved.
Do you want to know how you describe that one?
Yeah.
Creepy Airbnb.
I can hear him saying that. He had like a rasp to his voice. Where in Philly are you located?
I'm in West Philly.
Oh, cool. I can't believe we didn't cross paths when I was in West Philly. I was only there for a couple years. And the first year I was in Drexel area. Powelton was our first apartment. You also showed up how you could. I mean, I also wish I'd had more capacity earlier in. But you know what? I don't admit if you think about all of the elements of his community, I don't think I think he was connected with people a lot of the time. Especially being in rabbinical school, that's a lot of time. I think just even the tiny amount of time that I was in his hospice room, just the number of people who came through. Spent a lot of time with Sarah and Mickey. I think Jordan went to Chicago, home to Chicago for a hunk of it, or she was also working nights. So Jordan was showing up at the times that not everyone else was there. But I just honestly, there was I don't remember this person's name. There were a bunch of rabbinical students. It was cool. It was cool to be around a bunch of rabbis. There was an element to that, but I think it was very much of people showing up as they are, and it meant welcoming them as they are. And it's just he made his hospice room just such a beautiful space to be in. The piece to it. My uncle, yeah, he still works for Panera, and it was out in Bucks County, and I'd gone and done half my family does Christmas. I'd gone and done Christmas with them, and he had a bunch of Panera stuff, and I told him that I was going to my friend's hospice room, and he said, "Do you want to take it?" I said, "Yeah," and I just remember bringing a bunch of pastries. And they went. That would have been before New Year's because it would have been after Christmas. So I think I showed up a little before Christmas, and then it would have been in maybe the 27th or 28th because I think my parents had flown in too. But there honestly, we might have eaten some of the Panera pastries still taste good stale, so there might have been some of those in the New Year's party. There was always food in that room. I miss some of that living. Yeah, I think we have now three Jewish organizations and flag. One of them's Chabad, one of them's a Reform, and one of them, I think, was someone who was very involved in the Reform and is now doing her own thing. But may have my daughter's naming coming up since that field. But I think the rabbi I've not. She's like a rabbi. She's a retired rabbi. I liked some of what she had to say when I went to a service that was there, and she was who the synagogue connected us with. But it is an element that yeah, I don't think I realized how special having such I how do I say it? I not all Jewish communities are necessarily the same. There are elements that are so nice to be able to be connected to. But the one that you teach at sounds really cool.
It's kind of very Philadelphia, Abbott Elementary, but Jewish. Very only in Philadelphia.
Awesome. I like a lot of the humanist stuff. We have like the humanist Haggadah that integrate elements of it for our Passover. I really like the Marcia Falk prayer adoptions. We do those in our house for Shabbat. There is a tangible magic of Judaism, the interlayers and the web that encompass that room. Because there was still that commonality. I think we were all just like, well, and Matt wouldn't be friends with someone who wasn't cool, so I assumed you're cool. And that was just so cool. I think that was just, I was like, I don't know you, but I assume you're awesome because you're here and I meant love to you. So cool. I think I was always a little, they just seemed really cool. I don't, I would love to grow more of my understanding of Judaism. I think almost an element of not intimidation and not really awe, because they weren't, intimidation implies a negative component to it, and there wasn't a negative connotation. I have a higher level element of thinking and an element of being about Judaism that I just thought was cool and wasn't something I'd ever really experienced before. If not now, was my first taste. I don't know. My mom watches this. I don't want her sad. I feel like my parents introduced me to Judaism in a great way. And they introduced it to a piece that I'm always Jewish. My daughter is Jewish. That is an incredibly important piece. We celebrate Judaism in my home. But Judaism is such cool. Something that annoys me in pop culture is I think Judaism is not shown as deep as there's so much depth to it. I think the rabbinical students, like, I'm just like, that's cool. And I almost feel like I know so little compared to what you guys know about this. But they're also welcoming and kind. I don't know. I feel rabbinical students are in general wise. Yeah. Or also them, I think they all were doing it, or you don't do that unless you know it's what you want to do with your life. And so they all had that sense of purpose as well, I think, which who can't envy knowing just what you want to do. A depth to, yeah, the depth and intention to how to map that space when everyone's showing up, but who knows how to show up in that space. Well, and I think Judaism has so many teachings about how to show up for loved ones and how to value life. And I think that is how, like, I would imagine that helped guide the rabbinical students because I spent so much time thinking and writing and learning about that. I think there are pieces to it that you don't know how some able-bodied person, you don't think about all the details. And I I try to be a kind person in life and these things, but I certainly was not aware of the depths of the privilege that I had as an able-bodied person, and met helping to teach that. That really opened my eyes to that. I have a dear friend in grad school who's in a wheelchair, and I think I showed up for her as a better friend because of what Emet taught me. I think I will always show up as a better person for people with disabilities because of how Emet taught me. And I think a lot of social movements, the disability rights movement is just so incredibly impactful in the history of social movements in the United States. I would hope that many movements have learned from it. I know it's a very active movement at this time as well, politically. He knew so much about no wonder he brought all of that. He brought the generations of wisdom with him into If Not Now. I've not actually been involved in I did some remote community work. I did do some remote community organizing, but I've not been involved. But even that was a while ago. So I've not been involved in the social movements for long after Emet was. I didn't have capacity. I'm proud of the work I do as the therapist, but I didn't have the capacity, so I haven't been able to see it on the ground. But if I even think of me, who is somebody pretty physically removed, and if he changed the whole way that I think about disability, I'd be really curious to see. Yeah, on the ground, I have to imagine that it's exponential. And yeah, he definitely impacts how I show up as a therapist. If I even had a minor cold, I didn't want to, I would always wear a mask in person because I didn't know, I don't know the impact of who you're going to then interact with next. And I don't know if this thing that doesn't seem to be making me very sick could potentially make the next person very sick. I want to at least stop my line at my chain, my role in that chain. Yeah. Those moments when I don't have a ton of specialized training, that I would like to gain some mental health with folks with disabilities. But I will say that when I've worked with folks with disabilities, Emet and his lessons have always been in the back of my mind. And Emet was very intersectional, right? And so I think I live in a relatively small town. I think even though I don't have specialized training, everyone deserves access to someone with specialized training. Sometimes I'm the best it can get. And I do seek out additional reading on counseling folks with disabilities and counseling trans folks. But I will say he is always in the back of my mind when that is kind of relevant to the work that I've done. And he's made me a better therapist to those people. There is an element to put a lot of thought into how I want to name my daughter. And I know in Judaism, no is like a very traditional girl's name, but I really wanted a name that could be more gender fluid in America. And that was an impact in choosing her name. Yes. Yes. And then the NOA, I mean, social movement, like cool history. And it also honors, yeah, a feisty grandma. That wasn't her name, but I wanted to kind of honor some of the spirit. But I don't know, I just seeing, I don't know, what are the odds? I don't know what the odds. I have no idea how my child is going to identify as she ages. But wouldn't it be nice if she had a name that'd be a little bit more fluid? And so that way, it just hopefully will make her life a little easier. That's kind of what we wanted. We want the room to explore. And I don't know. We could always help her change her name if she wanted to. That is something. I haven't changed my name, but I'm sure I would help if I would help her out. But yeah, and that definitely had an impact on that. Yeah, and I will say I don't think I was like an intentionally ignorant person at the time, but I learned a lot from Emet. The infrastructure behind it was pretty freaking cool. Showing up. I'm not going to move anywhere without an if not now chapter again. My new role in life. Well, and then a lot of the issues, one of the driving forces, and if now when at the time that I left, it wasn't willing to take a stand on some of the things that it is willing to take a stand on now. And people, I really want it to be more like VP, but I don't want to lose the community of if not now. There's so much community. I don't think I realized how special it was until I left it. Yeah, he was right. I don't know what at the living funeral when I was talking about his authenticity. I think that's a really big lesson that I'm going to take from Emet and showing up as you are. I think I'm going to continue to reflect on Emet for the next I'm so grateful that you asked me this. I'm really grateful that I'm really glad that he was my friend. That's very, very full circle, but I don't think I can say much more than that. Yeah, I'm a rambly person, but that's just the thing that feels true and encapsulating it. And I'm really looking forward to going through and watching the interviews and I'm really looking forward to seeing the web and the impact in that community and the way you've set up the website to be an accessible place to almost rejoin that community. I want to show her it. I mean, and that would make a dope children's book. The hair, the glitter, and the intersectionality of it, you can teach so much. Well, and he loved those things, but he didn't presented very grounded. It's like you can't have those things and be grounded, but he presented he loved these extra things, but he presented it in a very even keel, mellow. There's a mellowness I felt like a lot to his presentation. Yeah, what a special guy. Yeah, it brings a mystical. I think when I was doing this and trying to describe the room, I think that's what I was trying to get at.
An ancient Hebrew Kadisha in medieval Prague. And this is a painting of a real Hebrew Kadisha. And a painting was done to commemorate it. Remember their holy work. To remember this little community of volunteers. And they're sitting with a dying rabbi.
Beautiful.
And then this is Emet's friends.
Oh my gosh, the Harry Potter party.
What do you know about the similarity between those pictures?
I mean, I think we've got the wands. This is the candles, the gathering around the bed, and like an intensity to the way they look. I was gonna say they all have glasses in this one, but it's because Harry Potter party. But it's almost joining in a protection around the bed.